Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Mormonism with the Murph, where we do a fair and objective analysis of the church's truth claims, history, doctrine, and policy. We've been doing a multi-episode series about Joseph Smith's first vision and looking at some of the controversies. In part 3, we had a look at the differences and contradictions between the accounts that critics would point at, and we had a look at some of the faithful responses. In part 4, we're going to be diving into Joseph Smith's memory. We're going to be having a look at, was there a revival in 1820? We're going to look at when did Joseph's family join the Presbyterian Church. We're going to have a look at when did they move to Manchester, New York? And did Joseph try to join the Methodist Church himself? So lots of really important issues. We're going to have a look at both the critical argument and if there's any faithful responses. So let's have a look. This is from the CES Letter, debunking Fairmormon. Again, Joseph's mother, Lucy, and Joseph's brother, William, both stated that the family joined Presbyterianism after Alvin's death in November 1823. The historical record is consistent with Lucy and William's claim, as there was an 1824-25 revival after Alvin's death in 1823. Why did Joseph Smith claim in his 1838 account they joined in 1820, when there was no revival, when it was 3 years before Alvin Smith's death, as stated by Joseph's mother and brother? So this is a really important question and concern brought up by Jeremy Runnels. Joseph Smith is claiming that they joined Presbyterianism in 1820, according to his 1838 account. But Lucy and William, and we're going to read their accounts, claim that they joined the Presbyterian Church after Alvin's death, and Alvin's death was in 1823. So they both can't be right. So Joseph says in his own history that in his 15th year, his family was proselyted to the Presbyterian faith. 4 of them joined that church. Now, he doesn't say they joined necessarily that year, but that is probably what is sort of implied in his 1838 account. This comes from the BYU Studies, First Vision Controversies, and I'll link this in the description. Lucy said she attended the revival with hope of gaining solace for Alvin's loss. That kind of detail is just the sort that gives validity to Lucy's chronology. She would not have been likely to make up such a reaction for herself or the family, or to mistake the time when it happened. I am persuaded that it was 1824 when Lucy joined the Presbyterians. And again, what the author of this article is saying is it's unlikely Lucy would get her chronology wrong here, as she remembers that she went seeking solace for Alvin's loss, and that's when she joined the Presbyterian Church. Well, what Fairmormon has to say: so Alvin died 19th of November 1823. About this time, there was a great revival in religion. This comes from Lucy Mack Smith, and the whole neighbourhood was very much aroused to the subject, and we were among the rest. We flocked to the meeting house to see if there was a word of comfort for us, that we might relieve our overcharged feelings. So Lucy wished to join herself with this group. All the Smith family were inclined to join except Joseph. Joseph told his mother that he did not wish to prevent her or any member of the Smith family from attending any church meeting or joining any church, but that if they liked, but stated his own desire not to go with them. Now, Fairmormon, they do acknowledge in their response to the CES letter, it's correct that there were 2 large revivals in Palmyra, one in 1816-17 and the other in 1824-25. However, Joseph never calls the religious excitement concerning a religion a revival in any of his first vision accounts. He just says religious excitement. Joseph's concern about religion started when he was 12 years old, close on the heels of the revival from 1817. In his 1832 account, Joseph notes that his concern about religion began at age 12, so around the time of 1817 to 1818. So Fairmormon, or Fair Latter-day Saints, are claiming that Joseph Smith's talking about religious excitement in the 1832 account, it's age 12 when he starts to have concerns with regards to the welfare of his soul, and that's coming off the end of the 1816-17 revival. What Mormon Think have to say on the matter: a revival after Alvin's death matches the 1824 date because Alvin died in November 1823. The second detail was that Joseph Smith's statement that the revival took place sometime in the second year after our removal to Manchester. So that would mean, according to Joseph's account, they would have moved to Manchester in 1819 or 1820. They state, research into existing tax records and property assessments indicate the most likely date for the Smiths family onto their Manchester farm was 1822. A revival occurring in the second year after 1822 also fits the 1824 revival date. The evidence indicates that the actual date for the revival mentioned by Joseph is 1824 rather than 1820. So really the point they're trying to make is both the year that Lucy and Joseph's siblings joined the Presbyterian Church and the year that they moved to Manchester, the most likely date for the revival is 1824. And that would mean Joseph would get both of those details, because he says in his 1838 account that's the second year after they arrive to Manchester that all this religious excitement is happening, and he says that year his family members joined the Presbyterian Church. So he's stating that it happens in 1820, but the historical record makes it seem that it's more likely it was 1824. So is Joseph Smith moving those events 4 years earlier to coincide with his first vision claims? So why did Joseph's family move to Manchester? This comes from LDS.org, Palmyra and Manchester. That's an article on the church's website. I'll cite it in the description. So there's disputation over what year they moved to Manchester. So this is the church's position. The Smiths in Palmyra and Manchester, Joseph Smith Sr. and Lucy Mack Smith, migrated to Western New York in 1816. After 1817, after a bad harvest and financial troubles upset their livelihood, they first settled in Palmyra village and rented a house for 2 years, living on wages earned from day labour and running a small shop. In 1820, the family purchased a 100-acre farm a few miles south of Palmyra in Manchester Township. Several key events of the early restoration took place in this area. Joseph Smith Jr. recounted that around the time of his family's move to Western New York, his mind became seriously impressed with religious questions. So the church is stating that it was 1820 when they purchased a property in Manchester, New York. The tax records that Mormon Think are linking to is 1822. As I've researched, there's lots of controversy and you could go back and forth, but let's just say it's disputed when they moved to Manchester. But in order for Joseph Smith's timeline to be correct in his account, it would have to have been 1820. Just to confuse things, William Smith said, this was in 1883, so this is long after the fact, but you think he would remember. I was born in Royalton, Vermont on the 13th day of March, 1811. At the age of 5, my father moved his family into the town of Palmyra. That matches 1816. We moved into Manchester in the same county in 1821, so that would have been 1 year after the first vision supposedly took place. Did Joseph try to join the Methodists after his vision? So this comes from Joseph and Hale Lewis, who were cousins of Emma. They would have been aged 21 and 11, and this was in 1828, although it was recorded in 1879, so 59 years after the first vision. This is what they say. So they were living with the Hales. Joseph was translating the Book of Mormon at the time. They state, while he, Smith, was in Harmony, Pennsylvania, translating his book, he joined the Methodist Church. He presented himself in every serious and humble manner, and the minister, not suspecting evil, put his name on the class book. The absence of some of the official members, among whom I was undersigned, Joseph Lewis, who, when he learned what was done, took with him Joshua McCune and had a talk with Smith. They told him plainly that such a character as he was a disgrace to the church, that he could not be a member of the church unless he broke off his sins by repentance, made public confession, renounced his fraudulent and hypocritical practices, and gave some evidence that he intended to reform and conduct himself somewhat nearer like a Christian than he had done. They gave him his choice to go before the class and publicly ask to have his name stricken from the class book or to stand a disciplinary investigation. He chose the former and immediately withdrew his name. So his name as a member of the class was on the book only 3 days. It was the general opinion that his only object in joining the church was to bolster up his reputation and gain the sympathy and help of Christians. that is, putting on the cloak of religion to serve the devil. Now, Joseph does say in his 1838 account that he did lean towards the Methodists. Some things might seem a bit confusing if you're new to looking at some of the controversies here, but they're claiming that when Joseph was trying to join the Methodist Church, that really he was taken into a disciplinary and was told that he needed to publicly confess, he needed to repent of some of the fraudulent and practices that he was doing. Joseph Smith, and we're going to do this in another episode series, had a reputation. He was involved in treasure digging and seeing in the stone, and many people deemed his behavior as fraudulent and not fitting to be a Christian. So that's why, according to this account, they had problems with Joseph Smith trying to join the Methodist Church. Now, Fair Latter-day Saints would respond to this. They would say, note that Joseph did not inscribe himself, but the Methodist minister added Joseph's name to the class book. It is not surprising that Joseph might have attended Methodist services. Emma's family was involved in Methodism. She was related to Methodist ministers, and Joseph at this period was living on the Hale family's farm. The Hales had serious reservations about their new son-in-law, who claimed by this point to have the Book of Mormon plates in his possession. It would be natural for him to attend worship services with them, if only to reassure them that he was not hostile to religion. Because yes, it wouldn't make sense if Joseph Smith was trying to join the Methodist Church after being told in 1820 to join none of the churches, but according to Fair Latter-day Saints, they are claiming that it was maybe just because he was living with the Hales family, he was with Emma, Emma's family were attending the Methodist Church, so in a way it was almost like to appease his family, and you yourself might attend another family member's church, even if you aren't necessarily looking or intending to join that church. So, in summary, Lucy's account of joining the Presbyterian Church after Alvin's death is in conflict and contradiction with Joseph Smith's 1838 account when he claimed it occurred in 1820. Did Joseph Smith confuse this detail when reciting his history, or are the critics right that the revival Joseph is referring to is actually 1824, but he moved it earlier to coincide with his 1820 vision to bolster his prophetic claims? Joseph claims in the second year after arriving in Manchester that the first vision occurred. There's much confusion whether it happened in 1819 or if it was in 1822. Obviously, for the first vision to have occurred in 1820, as Joseph claimed, their move to Manchester would have to have been in 1819. Look into the research yourself and come to your own conclusion. I'll link some articles in the description. And then Joseph seemed to be investigating and attending the Methodist Church with Emma. It's curious if he was already told all the churches were wrong. However, there's just that account that says he was trying to join, but it's very possible he was just attending with the family and not intending to join. So that sums up part 4. I hope that you've really enjoyed this video. Please watch part 5. We're going to be looking at Joseph's theology of God. This is going to be in response to a video made years ago by former CES director and teacher Grant Palmer, and the claim that Joseph's theology of God changed with his changing first vision accounts. So that will be the next video. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, please share, please subscribe. If you care to donate, you can to my PayPal, stephen.murphy1996@outlook.com, and I will see you on the next video. Take care, everybody.